You know, it is easy to say we have faith when the sun is shining. When our days are calm and our path is smooth, belief feels simple. We can sing songs of trust when our prayers are answered just the way we hoped. We can talk about God's goodness when life is good to us. But what happens when the sky grows dark and the path becomes steep and rocky? What happens when God asks for something that feels impossible to give? This is where true faith is born. It is not found in the easy times, but in the moments when our hearts are heavy and our understanding is small. It is on the lonely mountains of difficult choices that we discover what we truly believe. Consider the story of a man named Abraham. He was a good man, a friend of God. God had given him a promise, a son named Isaac. This son was not just a child, he was the future. He was the living, breathing proof of God's faithfulness. Abraham loved Isaac more than anything in the world. Imagine his joy watching Isaac grow, hearing his laughter, and dreaming of the generations that would follow. This son was the center of his world, the answer to a lifetime of prayers. Everything that was precious to Abraham was wrapped up in this one boy, a gift he had waited for so patiently. Then, one day, God spoke, and his words must have felt like a storm crashing into Abraham's soul. God asked Abraham to take his son, his only son Isaac, whom he loved, and offer him as a sacrifice on a mountain. Can you imagine the weight of that command? It made no sense. It felt cruel and confusing. This was the son of promise. This was the boy through whom God had sworn to build a great nation. How could God ask for the very thing he had so graciously given? It was a test that went beyond reason, a command that challenged everything Abraham thought he knew about God. Abraham faced a choice that would define him forever. He could have argued, he could have protested or simply refused. He could have hidden his son away and hoped God would forget. But he did something else, something remarkable. Early the next morning he got up, prepared for the journey, and started walking toward the mountain God had shown him. He did not understand why. He did not know how it would end. But he chose to trust the giver more than the gift. He chose to obey, even with a broken heart, believing that the God who had promised was also the God who would provide. As Abraham and Isaac walked toward the mountain, the silence must have been deafening. Isaac, full of innocent curiosity, looked at his father. He saw the wood for the fire and the knife in his father's hand, but something was missing. He asked the question that surely echoed in Abraham's own heart. "Father, we have the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the offering?" Think of the pain in that moment. How does a father answer such a question when his own son is the intended sacrifice? Every step was a test of his resolve. Every breath a prayer for strength to continue on this path of blind obedience. Abraham's answer reveals the depth of his faith. He did not crumble or show his fear. Instead, he looked at his son and spoke words of pure trust. God himself will provide the lamb, he said. He did not have a secret plan. He did not see a solution waiting for him at the top of the hill. All he had was a deep, unshakable belief in God's character. He believed that the same God who could bring life from a barren womb could also bring a solution out of an impossible situation. His faith was not in what he could see, but in the one he could not see. This kind of trust is a powerful thing. It is not about having all the answers. It is about being okay with not having them. It is about resting in the knowledge that God is in control, even when life feels completely out of control. Abraham was walking into the deepest darkness of his life, but he was not walking alone. He clung to the promise of God, believing that even if the worst happened, God could still raise Isaac from the dead to fulfill his word. This was not wishful thinking. It was a steadfast confidence in God's power and his goodness, a faith that holds on when everything else says to let go. And at the very last moment, God did provide. Just as Abraham raised his hand, an angel of the Lord called out, stopping him, and there, caught in a nearby thicket, was a ram. God had provided the lamb, just as Abraham had believed he would. This moment was not just about saving Isaac, it was about revealing God's heart. God never wanted the sacrifice of the boy. He wanted the trust of the father. The test was not about death, but about devotion. It proved that Abraham's faith was real, forged in the fire of an impossible choice and sealed by his unwavering obedience. This kind of testing is not just for ancient heroes in old stories. It happens to us too, in our own lives today. Think of a woman who worked hard to build a successful career. She was offered a major promotion, a dream job with a big salary and great influence. But there was a catch. To get the job, she was told she would have to do things that went against her deepest beliefs. She would have to be dishonest and treat people unfairly. She was faced with a mountain. Would she hold on to her integrity, or would she take the easy path to success? It was a difficult and painful choice. She chose to trust God. She turned down the promotion, knowing it would likely mean losing her job altogether, and it did. To her friends, it looked like she had thrown everything away for nothing. Her path became uncertain, and her future looked dim. She had to give up something she cherished, her career stability, because she valued her obedience to God more. This is modern-day faith. It is choosing to honor God when the world offers you a shortcut. It is believing that your character is more valuable than your comfort, even when no one else seems to understand the choice you are making. Or consider a community leader who saw injustice happening around him. He saw people being treated poorly, their voices silenced and their needs ignored. He knew that speaking up would be risky. The other leaders warned him to stay quiet, to protect his position and his reputation. They told him not to rock the boat, but his faith told him that God cares about justice, and that silence in the face of wrongdoing is a choice too. He had to decide whether to protect his own comfort or to stand for those who could not stand for themselves, trusting God with the outcome. He chose to speak out. He used his voice to challenge the unfairness, even though it cost him everything. He lost his respected position, and many of his former friends turned their backs on him. From the outside, it looked like a great loss, but he had chosen obedience over popularity. Like Abraham, he was asked to put something precious on the altar, his influence and security. He did it because his faith was not in his title or in the approval of others, but in a God who stands for righteousness. His story reminds us that true faith is often shown when we stand alone for what is right. Sometimes, when we make these hard choices, we might feel let down. We might obey God, do the right thing, and then watch as our lives get harder, not easier. The woman who lost her job might not find a new one right away. The leader who spoke out might feel isolated and forgotten. In these moments of silence, when it feels like our faithfulness has not been rewarded, our trust is tested yet again. We might start to wonder, God, did you see what I did? Do you even care? This is a natural feeling, a whisper of doubt that tries to creep into our hearts. This is precisely where faith must dig its roots deeper. It is in these quiet, confusing seasons that we must remember who God is. He is not a vending machine where we put in an act of obedience and get an immediate reward. He is a loving Father who sees the bigger picture, a picture we often cannot see from our limited view. Abraham had to wait for years for his promised son, and then he had to be willing to give him back. His entire life was a lesson in trusting God's timing and God's ways, even when they made no sense at all. Our difficult choices are opportunities. They are chances to show the world and ourselves that our faith is real. They are our own Mount Moriahs, where we decide if we will trust God no matter what. Every time we choose integrity over personal gain, or courage over comfort, we are building a faith that is strong and genuine. These moments are not punishments, they are invitations to experience God's faithfulness in a new and profound way. They prove that our trust is not based on our circumstances, but on God's unchanging character. He is good, and He is for us, always. So when you face your own mountains, do not be afraid. When you are asked to trust God without understanding why, remember Abraham, remember his courage, remember his belief that God would provide. Your story is part of the same great adventure of faith. Trust that the God who was faithful to Abraham will be faithful to you. He sees your sacrifice, He hears your quiet prayers, and He will honor your trust. He always keeps His promises, even when we have to walk through the silence for a little while to see them fulfilled. Trust Him. He will get you through this.